Have you checked out WatchMojo's newest pop culture show? Join me every week on the MoreMojo channel for a deep dive into the wonderful world of entertainment, where you'll also find some very familiar faces and voices. Question
Yes.
for you. And I think there was an AMA that went on the WatchMojo chat. WatchMojo Lady. That's kind of your nickname, and I think it's really cool. I think it's really catchy. I mean, I call myself Mr. Hollywood, but do you like being called the WatchMojo Lady?
So I like that it is an organic nickname that we did not invent. Do you know what I mean? That the fans kind of came up with themselves. Although, contrary to popular belief, everybody thinks Tom Holland named me that, and whatever, I'll take it, but he did not. If you rewatch that video, he never says that. But not that that's a myth I would like to dispel. But anyway, all in all, it's fine. I have no problem with it. I'll take it. Nicknames are great.
What does Tom Holland smell like?
Roses
Whenever
and
I meet
innocence.
Oh. Whenever I meet a celebrity, that's what everyone, and I don't know why, everyone's like, oh, what'd they smell like? What did Ryan Reynolds smell like? Vanilla, by the way. Okay, Rebecca.
Ooh. Sorry, that's my jam.
Oh, well then you'll love him. Okay, here we go. Speaking of love, people love them some Jim Carrey. I know I do. I'm a big Jim Carrey fan. Yeah. So
1994 was a very important year.
Huge. And speaking of 1994, a big movie came out. I think it was the one that kind of catapulted him into stardom. It was called Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Now, here's the news that I want you to help me break down. Reports now from Morgan Creek, who has the rights to this property, is saying that officially an Ace Ventura 3 will be in production. Not a lot is known. We know that the writers will be from the Sonic the Hedgehog movie and the sequel, which also starred Jim Carrey. And then there is a bit of casting rumors floating around that Evan Peters, you know him from, well, he was in WandaVision recently. And, yeah, that he might be Ace Ventura's son. Okay, now there's no official word on whether Carrey will be back in, but what says you, Rebecca? Are you in Ace Ventura 3?
Okay, I have so many things.
And I should clarify. I should clarify. Not are you in the movie? I mean, if you are, that's amazing. But are you in for?
If anybody wants to put me in a movie, that's great. I would love that. I've already told the fans that I want them to get me to be an AI in the Marvel universe. But anyway, sidebar. Am I in for Ace Ventura 3? Well, here's the thing. If it doesn't star Jim Carrey, don't even talk to me about it. Like, we've already seen via Son of the Mask that reboots of Jim Carrey movies or sequels to Jim Carrey movies without Jim Carrey do not work. So,
yeah.
Sorry, Jamie Kennedy. I don't know what to tell you. Now, Evan Peters is an interesting choice, and based on his performance on WandaVision, I think he could convincingly portray Ace Ventura's son. But I would love to see the dynamic between the two of them. So I wouldn't like to see him do it solo.
I'm with you about the no Jim. If Jim Carrey's not in it, I'm not interested. Although I'm going to put a big asterisk because I said that about another franchise, Rebecca.
Let me see if I can guess. Okay, can I have a clue?
Okay, so it didn't star the big star of the original because sadly he was no longer with us.
Oh.
Yeah. Think. There's been two movies that have come out recently, both hugely successful.
Not Jurassic World.
No. Stick with the J. Jumanji?
Yeah. The Jumanji movies are so good.
I know, and that's the thing. When I heard about this, and obviously they're doing Jumanji, and I said, well, no, you can't do it without Robin Williams because Robin Williams was that movie to me, the first one. And then when it came out, when they did the remake, and they paid homage to him, by the way, really well, his character. And I loved it. And I was like, wow. So they did some really creative things. So maybe, just maybe, if Jim Carrey's not in Ace Ventura, they would have to do something really creative to make it their own.
Yeah. I will say...
Is there any...
Sorry. I will say just that Ace Ventura 1, the comedy has aged fine. Like, it's still a funny slapstick, whatever. But the story itself, would love to see that kind of be ignored. because the story in Ace Ventura 1 has not aged very well. I don't think.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That ending is a little cringy. But that franchise, I think, it still has some gas. There was an animated show, and then there was this really terrible made-for-TV movie, which we won't even mention.
Was that the child?
Yeah.
Oh, we won't mention. Sorry.
We won't mention. All right, before we move on from Jim Carrey, any other Carrey movies that you think he should return for, or should get sequels or rebooted? Because he's done a lot. We had the Dumb and Dumber one. He did that. Ace Ventura is on there. Any other ones that you would like to see?
The only one I would like to see kind of what happens next for is The Truman Show. But the point of that movie is that you don't see what happens next. So I don't actually want a sequel to that. But I'm curious. So honestly, my real answer to this is Sonic. And I'm glad there will be another one, because that movie was actually a lot of fun. Along the lines of Jumanji.
Yeah. And I'm happy that Jim Carrey was in that movie, and it reminded me of the Jim Carrey of old from the '94, and totally. It looked like he was having fun. Each episode will also feature an exclusive interview with one of pop culture's biggest movers and shakers, like the one and only Todd McFarlane. I love Spawn. I love the universe and the characters. And they've kind of new characters. Well, I don't want to say new. Some of them have been around for a while. They've been reinvigorated. There's new twists on them. My favorite, and maybe I'll get your favorite of the bunch, Todd. I love this gunslinger Spawn. This guy's just badass. The definition. Badass, right? Yeah, I don't know if you watch wrestling. It reminds me of The Undertaker. He's since retired. He's like Spawn's version of The Undertaker, but with like the guns and the top hat. What about you? Which character other than Al or main hero?
No, I think Gunslinger is going to be the winner of the bunch to start with. We'll see what happens with the others, depending what those stories are and what events people, if we do our job right and keep introducing new characters, a couple of them are going to pop, right? I'm sure nobody thought when the Uncanny X-Men started that Wolverine would be so big. So we're going to have our surprise hits as we go by. But I think the gunslinger is sort of the easy, obvious guy, because to me he's, I'm older. The westerns I used to watch were the ones with Clint Eastwood.
Yes,
and he was the outlaw Josie Wales, and he was just that dude. He had the 5 o'clock shadow, and he had that little skinny cigarette of his, and he had the poncho, and he didn't really talk a whole heck of a lot, right? I'd argue Clint Eastwood doesn't talk a lot in any of his movies. And because, he just went from outlaw Josie Wales to Dirty Harry, and he just sort of keeps the attitude. But to me, that's who Gunslinger is. Just this dude that's not gonna say a heck of a lot to people. He's just gonna do what he has to do. Oh, by the way, he's also a guy now that's going to be 180 years out of time. And so I'm in the book. To start with, I'm going to have sort of a modern story and then a Western story. So I'm going to mix and match so you'll be able to get both. But there'll be a little bit of interest and fun of that whole man out of time, right? I'm just
love it.
I just did a ending in the second plot that I gave to my artists, and it's just super dark, intense, almost bloody story, and then at the end it sort of takes a little bit of a turn because he sort of is curious about some modern piece of technology we have, and so the last couple pages he's just asking silly questions like I don't understand it, right? And so he just went from like killing people to like, how's that even work, right? What does it even mean? Why do you guys even have it? So I think those would be sort of fun conversations that he'll have. Even things like, does he know what a dinosaur is? I mean, sometimes this is a thing. It's easy to do all this stuff where you pull people and you play with time, but I'm always disappointed at times that people don't act the way they would. If I went back in time, let me just tell you, if I went back in time, first thing I do is I go to Vegas and I put every penny on whoever won the World Series because I know who won the World Series the last 50 years. So I I'd hit it. And then I'd buy all those cheap stocks like Coca-Cola, depending, or Amazon when it was only $10 an apple, and I'd load up, right? Like, what are you talking about? I don't have to go save the world. Shit, I can just do this because eventually I'm going to be a billionaire and then I'll save the world. So, because I'll have lots of money to build my ships and my bat boats. But anyways, that's just me.
You touched on something there, Todd, that you're still very much involved in the writing of the Spawn comic. And I think a lot of people that aren't following Spawn are like, wait, Todd's still doing the creative, he's still doing the writing. Why is that? Is it's just a character that you love writing? Is it a trust issue? Is it just you've got the idea, or why are you still?
Here's the thing that I don't think people sort of realize, but if they thought about it intellectually, they would go, wow, that I've written more issues of Spawn, which is, a single book, arguably more than any other person on the planet other than Eric Larson, who's done every single issue of Savage Dragon. God bless him. So I've written way more than I've drawn, because it's, I can do my 20 pages a month, writing fairly easily. And it's always interesting because nobody ever says, oh, I'm going to go get a signature from Todd the writer. I've never had anybody say, Todd, your artwork's okay, but man, I love your writing. But it's also funny because sometimes I run into writers and they like to feel pretty good about themselves because they're doing a book that's selling pretty good, right? And I'm like, okay, so you think from the writing point of view that the book's selling, and because I'm biased, I think the art is at least 51% of every comic book.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if the writing, if sales equals how good the writer is, then I've had a couple books that say I'm the best writer in the business, because we just said, again, a big record for that. I guess that makes me the best writer at Image comic books in the 21st century for a new title. I don't think that's true, right? So if it's not true for my book, then it might not be true for other books. So the unique thing about comics is it's this amalgamation of words and pictures, right? It's what makes us unique, right? Novels are just words. Movies are all pictures with dialogue and acting, but words and pictures are unique to comics. So we have our own little playground that we're in, and it's just, people ask me whether they think our industry is going to flourish or it's going to shrink or whatever. Like, words and pictures are going to be around forever. The only thing that will alter possibly in the future is whether the delivery mechanism is different.
So for all you fans of longer form content and entertaining chats and discussions, make sure you subscribe to the MoreMojo channel and tune in every single week for all the fun. I'll be there. Poppin the Culture.